If it had a toilet, we knocked on their door and said, "Can we clean it?" And pretty much got on with anything. Our business model was get revenue and then we'll make adjustments from there. We didn't learn how to operate better. We didn't learn anything else. We learned you can't take on every client that's out there, and that was probably when we realized, we keep adding revenue, we keep making money, but we don't have a culture. And so we were assigned a culture. We added a software company that manages your janitorial company. Does that sound like that's a hero journey, right?
Yeah, that's a quick one. So let's go back. So you left the large company to start your own. Did you start on your own by yourself, or you had a partner?
No, I had one partner at the time, and then within about 2 months, we brought on another guy as a partner. Within about a month, we brought on another guy as a partner.
Okay. And then what did you focus on, like in the beginning? Did you go back to your past clients, or you said, okay, I'm gonna, find my own clients within, certain geography? What was your, like, the early years? What was the focus? Survival years.
Survival years. Well, because they were survival years, we were, I don't think there's any kids on this call. We were pretty much whores. We went after any old clients, we went after new clients. If it had a toilet, we knocked on their door and said, "Can we clean it?" And pretty much got on with anything. Our business model was get revenue and then we'll kind of make adjustments from there.
Nice. Okay. And so the first phase is like just get any business, and let's we need to survive. We need to pay the bills. And then what was the next transition point? What year?
So we quickly found we started in February of '06, right before everything went sideways. By September, we were already in the black. And so we were realizing that we could probably make a significant change. So we started then to modify what we would go after, and we narrowed it down to accounts that would bring us a slightly higher amount of revenue, perhaps lower margins, but a higher amount of revenue that would make the maintenance and operating those things a little bit easier. So that was our next focus. Still pretty much neglecting the biggest thing, the most important thing, because we were chasing the dollar. And so I would say from about '06 until '08, '09, that was probably our focus. And we grew every year. And during that time, we probably doubled twice.
From '06 to '09.
Yeah, probably '06 to, yeah, I would say from
Okay.
6 to 10, we probably doubled our revenue at
What
least
was your
twice.
revenue in 2010 or 2009?
By 2010, we were doing about $1 million a month in
Okay, so
revenue.
about 12 million. Okay.
hmm
And then what's the next, leap, from 2009 to what year you made that next leap?
So we took on a very large, and if I'm telling you dates, it's as my best
Yeah.
recollection. I am
Yeah.
not that smart, as you're going to find out. So don't hold me to the dates. But the next big event that happened is we took on one of the largest medical facilities in San Diego. So at the time, we had two things take place from '08 to about 10, and we expanded into two other markets. And we took on a huge account. It was like I say, the largest medical offering in San Diego, and it was about just under $200,000 a month in revenue.
Wow.
And when we took that on, it was a huge get. And that was when we learned the most we ever learned. And we didn't learn how to operate better. We didn't learn anything else. We learned you can't take on every client that's out there. And that was probably when we realized, we keep adding revenue, we keep making money, but we don't have a culture. And so we were assigned a culture. And the culture we were assigned is we'll do anything for money. And that had a significant impact come about 2010, 2011, it was huge. It resulted in us actually, that largest account we held for about 2 years. And afterwards we said, hey, this isn't working. We need to make this and this change. And they said no. And we canceled our single largest account.
Wow. So how did that affect you? What was the pain that was creating? What were the issues that account was creating?
This is going to sound silly. So because it was taking our time, it was affecting other accounts. And so we were having to sidestep and do, I wouldn't say inappropriate, but sneaky things with other accounts. And that's again when we started realizing, oh, this is who we are. We are. It was funny in '06 to say we were whores. It's not funny 4 or 5 years later
Yeah.
to still be doing some things and realizing that because we didn't develop a culture, the culture we were assigned was, well, these guys will do anything to make a buck. And frankly, that's what we were doing.
But at this stage, you're like 36 million dollar business.
So if you just that again, don't quote me on some of the numbers. I know when we hit 1 million a month, but by that time we were probably about 18 to 20 million.
18 to 20.
A
Okay.
year.
So it's a decent sized business, but you still find yourself, catering to every client and trying to jump hoops, and now that client is affecting all your other clients. And I'm assuming affecting your culture as well, and the quality of life of your people and how they feel about the business.
It's exactly accurate. And the main thing it affected was our coworkers.
And how did you go? So now you said, okay, these are the changes we need to make in order for this relationship to be win-win. The client says no, and then you say, okay, thank you very much. It's not going to work. That's a pretty big decision, because it's, you're talking about 200K a month. That's a lot of money to walk away from. How did you kind of explain it to the company, and what changed? What did you guys do, from that point on?
How did we explain it to the company that we let go, or how did we explain it? Our internal or external explanation? Which are you looking for?
Internal.
There were some
internal.
Our internal was, yeah. So so explaining to the client was, it's just not working, and there's got to be, if everybody uses that term partner. Oh, we're partners. We're partners. Yeah, we're partners, and I don't mean to sound negative, but you're partners when everything's groovy. When things aren't great and you're the service provider, you're the service provider. Make no mistake about it. So that was our external. Our internal was, hey guys, this isn't who we are. And it was actually our annual meeting in December, and we sat down and said, we did the "who are we" conversation with each of the current managers at the time. Again, don't quote me. We had 10 to 13 managers, and we were about to get rid of a big account. And our promise to the team was, we're not going to cut anybody. Let's figure out how we can retool these things and start getting together. That's when we developed our little slogan that we're a tribe of innovation. And I know those things sound corny, but that was the beginning of a significant change.
So what was that change?
The change was in rejecting the culture that we were assigned and deciding to have our very own culture. That was the significant change.
So what was your culture? What was the, what did you, at that time, how did you describe that culture?
Well, again, so we described it and came to it right then and there, which is, if we really are who we say we are, that's when we developed the term tribe. We were never big on calling people employees and stuff, and we started saying we are coworkers. Don't care who you are in the company. Language and words have meaning. Stop using those terms and let's refer to each other how we want to be perceived in the market and how we really want to be perceived internally. So I think that was probably the begin. It was infantile, because you're making these changes and you're hearing these nifty things, and, oh, we're a tribe and we have coworkers and stuff. But if that's not built on something, it's just words. And
Right.
so that was the beginning. The next, oh gosh, 4 to 5 years was really the development of values. How do we teach the values? How far down are we getting the values all the way to the newest employee, the newest person that just came on with us? And what tools and mechanisms are we using? And that was at least a 4 year process during some very difficult times for the company.
Okay. So you essentially in the 4 or 5 years you're developing, you're refining the culture, you're actually showing it in action, and then you're the communication, the training, the education, the indoctrination into the culture, if you will, of new employees and new team, new coworkers. All right.
When you say
I'm
it, Jay, it sounds like we're forming a cult, but maybe that's not too far
well, that's the
off.
way it is. Yes,
I guess to
you
some
know,
extent it is.
yeah, yeah. So you're enrolling people into your culture, into in your tribe. So you mentioned something like during a period of tough time. What was that? What was going on back then?
Well, losing a significant account, um, restructuring, and then if we're going to commit to this thing, developing that meant we were actually, one, not going to fire any people after losing a large account. Two, we had to add personnel in order to do this. As an entrepreneur, you do everything, and shortly you realize that's ineffective. So we had to make, while we were losing revenue, we didn't replace, we didn't let anyone go, and then we actually added bodies, so it created a tough time. And then within this time frame, towards the end of that time frame, we had the advantage of having the federal government come knock on our door and decide to investigate us for a few years. That really really put a strain on us that you wouldn't believe.
That's incredible. So were you breaking even at that time, or you're losing money? Because like you cut a lot of revenue, and then you're adding people, and you didn't want to cut. So I'm assuming you're losing money.
So no, we weren't actually, because we were doing well before. So we had the only partner that's we're still together. There's three of us, as I said. One of us has already gone on the permanent vacation. So the guy that is still here, but he's still a partner. He receives dividends, but no salary. We would always be very smart about how much we have in retained earnings and those things. So while our margins shrunk and our net did go down, we were able to take adjustments to both our salaries and our salaries and our
Distribution.
individual distributions, just to make sure we could cover those things. So we actually financially we were okay,
Okay.
and we continued to operate
Got it.
and grow.
Okay. And grow. And then did you hire any sales team? Did you build a sales team back then?
So let me get the chronology correct here. Just before the loss of of getting rid of that account, we had started with salespeople in the past. Myself and the other partner that's no longer actively involved in the organization, we were the salespeople. We said, well, now we need a sales group. We need a sales group. And so we brought on some salespeople, and it was a fiasco for two reasons. One, our industry is relationship based. And two, we brought somebody on without having developed any type of a process. So we would take somebody known in the industry and we would say, okay, now go get us some business, and didn't have any of the mechanisms necessary to metrics to create and monitor the effectiveness. So it was a bad move, and the guys were terrible. And it was another, unfortunately, it's a learning experience. I think most companies need a sales force. To this day, now we're in 2025, we still do not have a single salesperson, and we do. Last year we did, I think it was 16 million in bid proposals on the janitorial side, and well, counting the one we just got, we did about 80 million on the engineering and bid proposals. So our sales force has evolved into being our coworkers, a specific group. The client experience specialists are supposed to interact with the client, and then they're supposed to spend 1/5 of their time working with the marketing team on active people that they can go see.
Okay, so no salespeople. Almost
We
about
did
a
we
hundred.
did back then. Yeah, we did, and
Wow.
then we got rid of them.
Wow. And okay, so let's stay with the chronology. So
Now wait,
you're
and now hold on, Jay, because you questioned that, and I'm wearing
yeah,
a Hurley hat, so you're wearing a
yes,
Ferrari hat, so we should
yes.
understand. You've obviously got a lot more intelligence than I, so this might be the wrong way to do it. Don't get me wrong. So if you see a flaw, I expect you to jump in here and tell
No,
me
you're
where it's
doing
not
great. You're
working.
doing great. You're almost at 100 million in the contract. So, dude, you're doing great. So, so now you lost your client. You lost your biggest client. You're retooling, redesigning the culture. You implementing systems in place to educate and teach and recruit better and train better and educate better on the culture. Now you have this lawsuit. Tell me about that.
Oh no, it wasn't a lawsuit. A
Oh,
lawsuits in
no,
our
not a lawsuit. A government,
Yeah.
the government coming after you. Okay, so
No,
what?
we have
Tell me.
lawsuits every month between workers'
Okay,
comp and payroll issues and stuff that we fight off and
that's
win every time.
natural.
No,
That's
this is
natural with the amount of people that you have. How many people do
uh,
you have now?
um, uh, probably just under 2,000. My last
2,000.
count, my last yeah, my last count was 900 on the engineering and probably a little over 1,000. So yeah, probably about
Wow.
2,000.
Okay.
Don't
Okay.
quote me though.
No, I'm okay. Okay. And
Because some of those people are part time. We have a huge operation in Hawaii, and most of the workers in Hawaii work 4 hours a day.
okay.
So a normal shift actually has two people instead of one.
Okay. And then so tell us about the whole government thing. That's an interesting one. Interesting story.
Hold on, I got to make sure I'm at my home office. Make sure my wife's not here because she has an adverse reaction when she hears about this. I think I told you about this. This is a very so about 2010, we employ a number of people, and most of them are Hispanic, migrants of some sort. There's a process you follow. You fill out this form called an I-9. Our I-9s were audited by DHS, and it came back at the time. Again, don't quote me, but let's just say we had 200 employees, 100 and something. I remember the number was 110 were not authorized to work. So we had to go through the roles. We had to purge all those people and rehire people. During that process, we decided to implement something called e-verify so that we wouldn't have this happen again. Now, I'm not an idiot, and please, if it sounds like I'm virtuous, we knew that a large portion of our people were probably here illegally, but they met the requirement filled out by the I-9. So we allowed it to happen. When we retooled and did that and used e-verify, we should not have brought back any of those people because they were all on the other list. Well, 26 of those people ended up coming back.
Hmm.
And in that process, something they didn't tell us is our vice president was a guy named Gustavo Madrigal. And I can use that name because it turns out to be a fake name. This man had a US passport. He had gone to us all, he's gone with us all over the world for meetings and stuff like that. Well, when they did the audit, they found out that he was not who he said he was, but they left him in play. They didn't tell us to get rid of him. They gave us the other list of 100 and some odd names, but his was not on the list. So then over the course of this time, some of these people end up coming back, and then that's it. No notice, nothing. They come to our office, tactical gear. They've got their M4s, flak jackets, sidearms, the whole bit, and they come in and they just take everything. They take everything. And we're sitting there going, well, wait, what's going on? So I'll try and make this as short as possible. What they came to us and said, and they had arrested Gustavo the night before, and they were tracking him, and he used to go across the border about every week, twice a month, weekly, something like that. Their assumption was he was going there to arrange for uh, us to meet up with people so that we could hire them. They could come across the border and we'd be able to hire them. He was actually going there to get a haircut, which I think is kind of funny. And that's a true statement, by the way. He was really going there to get a haircut. So once they arrested him and they said, you're not his name, I can't remember his real name, but it was something else, Ricardo.
And that's knowing that you guys are in San Diego. So going to Mexico to get a haircut is pretty
It's not
Yeah,
unreasonable.
it's a long drive, but
Yeah.
it's not unreasonable.
The fact that the guy goes back and across the border, which we knew, it was another indicator that if you come here illegally, you're not going back and forth.
Yeah.
It's just not something you're going to risk. So he was. So that was another indicator that everything was probably on the up and up. We were wrong. So, anyways, this once they got him, then of course he starts saying, "Oh yeah, they're all terrible. These guys are bad guys, and how can I get a deal?" And we ended up being investigated for almost 4 years. Our legal
Wow.
bills were about 600,000
Oh my God.
during that time. Um, I'm kind of, we're all partners and all that, but I kind of am perceived as the head of the company. So eventually I received what they call a target letter, which means I'm now the focus. And then they went to the partner so there's still three of us at the time. They went to the guy who's still with us now, who's kind of, not in the industry. And they said, "Hey, we'll give you a free ride, but you got to tell us everything about, what's going on." And so they tried to separate us. So they kept going to the point one day where my attorney says, he's the attorney, and we're on a phone call with the partners and him. And he says, "You guys, I'm your attorney. Stop this bullshit. Tell me the truth, because they've got 26 people that came back and that you guys hired, and you know it. And some of your teammates are not doing that. They're not playing along. They're telling these guys that you're terrible, and they've got all this case." Well, our attorney used to be a federal prosecutor. He was an AUSA for that office here in San Diego, and he was now private, and that's who's representing us. So, how much it kept
No,
going?
it's good. No, it's
I could.
interesting. So
So,
what?
go
Go
ahead.
ahead. No,
No,
go
you
ahead.
go.
Continue with that train whole story with the attorney. So you're
Well,
saying that.
so anyways, so the attorney says this, and we're like, and at this time they've got my partner who wants out of this thing. He's like, I'm not want to go to jail. And there's me saying, "Put your ass up against the wall and keep fighting, because there's nothing here." We don't, even if any of this was factual, we don't do the hiring. The hiring is done by an office and a bunch of people. There's no directives. So they've been recording me, and a woman called me. I know her, but I don't remember the call. And she said, "Hey, I want to go fill out an application." And I said, "Go ahead, go fill out an application." And she goes, "I don't know if my social security is correct though or not." And in the recording, I said, "That's okay. Just go fill out an application. It's fine." She filled out an application. So they gave that to my attorney. My attorney plays it for me, and he says, "Kurt, we've got to do." And I said, "Steve, if I told her not to fill out an application in the state of California, I would be culpable, and I could be held responsible for not accepting an application." And he goes, "Well, what happened?" I go, "I don't even know. I don't remember the conversation. I know the girl's name was Carla." He goes, "Did she come back to work for you?" And I said, "I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't do the hiring, but they would have run her through the system." So my attorney is convinced. He's told me, he goes, "Look, I'll try and get you into a club fed type thing." But, and then this is why my wife has these adverse reactions. She said, "But I can tell you, this isn't going to go well." I'm like, "Steve, there's nothing here. No, none of us knew about Gustavo. And again, now I'm the target of this thing. My other partner has his own attorney that the company's paying for, and I have this one." So during that time, my partner goes and meets with them with his own attorney that the company's paying for. And he says, "Okay, show me what you got on Kurt." And they said, "No, you tell us what you got." And he goes, "Well, I don't got anything. I thought you were going to tell me and to see if I could confirm it." He comes to find out they got nothing. And so he quickly drops the agreement with them. And now we're back on the same page. But my attorney gets that thing, and he's that video, that audio, he plays it for me. And I said, "What's the big deal, Steve?" He goes, "Kurt, you just told her to fill out an application. It's not going to play well." So in order to convince me, I was in Tampa. I remember the phone call he gave me. He says, "Hey, I'm going to try something, and I'll see if I can get you into Club Fed, but I'm going to do something. Just be good with don't be mad at me." He hangs up the phone. I don't know this, and he calls up the attorney, the AUSA prosecuting this, his old boss, and he says, "Listen, I got this guy. He's convinced he's going to beat this, or he's not guilty. I just need to show him this is not going to go his way. Can you send me that whole audio so I can play it for him again and make sure he understands what's going on?" He says, "Sure." sends an email and uses his name, Steve Cook. Well, Steve Cook used to be the head guy in the San Diego office. The clerk sees his name and thinks, oh, he must be representing this case on their side, and sends him their entire package. It literally took him about 9 hours to download everything. It was that big. An entire digital package of every interview, everything, and blah, blah, blah. So he learned a couple of things, first of which, well, he goes through the whole thing. This cost us thousands of dollars for him to go through this stuff. So I wake up one morning and my partner comes to my house and he says, did you see the email from Cook, Steve Cook, our attorney? And I was like, oh God. He goes, now what? He goes, you haven't seen it? And I go, no, dude, I try and just shut down. I'm compartmentalizing this thing. My wife doesn't take it. He goes, oh, open your email. I open the email and there it is, Steve Cook to the three partners. And it says, I wonder why that mother effer didn't play this audio. So apparently this woman I had called, or called me and was recording me, said, I'm not here legally, or not legally. She said, I don't have a social security. And I said, just go fill out an application. She went and filled out an application. The next call to me, which I don't remember, that is recorded. She said, hey, Kurt, it's Carla. I filled out the application. I said, oh, great. And she said, well, Emily, that's our office person in San Diego, said I didn't pass and I didn't get my social security wasn't good. And I said, oh, well, sorry to hear that. She goes, well, what can you do? I said, Carla, what can I do? You didn't pass. There's nothing I can do. No, I really want the job. I'll do anything. I said, Carla, I don't know what to do. How can I help you? And so he is livid. And about the time I played the audio, he calls me and he says, I'm setting up a meeting with the AUSA this week. Clear your schedule. We're going down there. And I said, okay. And we've done this before, and I was told to shut up. Don't ever say a word. Anything you say is going to screw you. Don't say anything. During which time he compiled and went through the rest of the documents. So we get into the meeting, and the guy thinks he's this head guy, not the guy prosecuting us, but the head guy that Steve used to be in place, says, so if you're looking for an offer, I got to tell you, it's got to come with some time. And my attorney, who's always been very, the attorney, he just shoves his phone across the table and he says, why don't you shut the F up and let me play something for you, and then we'll decide what's appropriate or not. Well, he plays the audio and it plays the rest of it. And he goes, you guys gave me just this piece of it. And clearly here's an example of Kurt saying, if you're not here legally, there's nothing I can do. And they said, well, that's just one single example. And then he reaches into his briefcase and he throws these documents on the ground. He goes, I printed out these. Here is you talking to one of his coworkers, telling him, if you don't tell us what we want you to tell us, we're going to pull your father out of hospice, who was using federal money because he was a veteran. We're going to pull him out of the VA, and we can do that. And so now one of our managers is like, well, what do you want to know? What do you want to know? And another guy they're threatening, who's a retired Marine, who is our compliance person, they said, we'll pull your entire retirement package. You won't get a dime anymore. We'll do all this stuff. And he goes, I don't care. Do whatever you want. I'm not doing anything. And he throws this at the guy. And he said, these are your investigators. And this guy, and he points at the little short guy who was prosecuting this. He goes, and this guy, he didn't say guy, he was dropping the F-bomb like crazy, is this close to prosecutorial misconduct. And I don't know why we don't just do that and just be done with it. And the dude starts sifting, the boss starts sifting through the folder that Steve has thrown on the table. And he goes, you have anything you want to say, Kurt? And my attorney looks at me and I said, no. He goes, oh no, you can say anything you want now. He goes, you see their face? They're scared. And I have never been prosecuted for anything in my life. And this was amazing to me because he always told us, don't say anything. So we had a discussion, and shortly thereafter, because we had hired back, the company had hired back 26 people, we had to pay a $15,000 fine. But it was almost $600,000 in expenses, and a long time frame where we just realized this was the best thing that happened to us. We'd gotten rid of that big client. We'd had a bunch of things happen. We were struggling. We were paying these bills. We're at the point where, hey, we're eating up a lot of our profits. It's hard to manage the projects and stuff. Companies going, what's going to happen? They're dividing the partnership up. And I never want this to happen again, but personally, professionally, spiritually, it was the single greatest thing that happened to us. I know that sounds terrible, but if you ask any of the partners, any of us that were there during that time, we had managers coming into our office saying, "Hey, cut my pay so we can pay these attorney bills." People coming in offering to do things. It was really an interesting time to be able to really develop our culture, and it really solidified it. So, long story. Sorry about that.
That's incredible. No, no, that's a great story. It's a great story, and you were all in the foxhole, pretty much. You were all on the same side, and that adversity put you guys tighter. The partners, the employees, the managers together, and I'm assuming made you question a lot of things that you did and why you did them. Did I lose you there?
No,
Okay. Yeah. So I'm assuming that tough experience made you guys question pretty much from first principle, what you guys did and how you did it and why you did it.
yes, and it actually, because of some of the things that transpired and the way that the team grew cohesively, it validated the fact that just before this, we had moved to the new culture.
Yeah.
Uh,
It kind of confirmed it.
exactly, and it allowed it to really manifest itself and to see it in practice. So that was a huge deal.
Wow. So what year did this ordeal end?
Let's see. When did I buy the motorcycle? 2016.
2016.
2016, 2015, maybe.
Okay.
2015, 2016, somewhere around there.
Okay.
That was
And
when
then,
we actually went and paid the fine, the $15,000 fine.
guys. All right. And then so now from that moment on, what did you guys do? And then what was the next, transition point?
Um, I'd say the next inflection probably had more to do with I- um I think it was we realized and everything manifested itself that this crazy culture thing worked, and so shortly thereafter, and from that point until today, I mean, last year was 2024 was probably our slowest growing year, but from that day until today, we continued to have tremendous growth. I mean, everything that we lost, everything we that struggled during that time, even the legal fees that we had to pay were just completely usurped by the fact that we took off after that. I mean, um, and did real. And when I say took off, it's relative, right? We're not a billion company, not even close to, breaking any of those 100 millions and those numbers. Um, we really took off, and we started to do quite well.
Okay. And so essentially there was massive growth from 2016, so it's about 9 years. And when did you start doing acquisitions?
So right about the time that not about the time. So I would say 2016 is when everything kind of clears up. We get our head above the water, and then 2019, that's when we decided, hey, we need to have annual retreats as a group of partners and go through stuff. And in the 2019 retreat in Fiji, we said, okay, we've got let's we were each given task, and the task I was given was to look at additional acquisitions and expansions for the first time, and take the software that we had developed and used internally and make it into something that we could take out. So that was about 2019. Of course, then we started going out, talking to companies and seeing if they're interested in acquisition and developing different models with zero. I mean, I'd done acquisitions when I was with the biggest company before, but they already had everything. They're going to finance it. They're multi-billion-dollar company. It's a whole different thing. And here we are talking to people about, hey, you want to sell your company? And I don't know what I'm doing. I mean, I had no idea. So we started with the blank sheet and just kept writing down what we did. And from that, we developed the first process and the second process. And then we got pretty good at it over the course of about a year. Well, then COVID hits. So the ability to go out and see people, which is actually expensive, had to be shifted into the Zoom environment. And that proved to be a huge value because we were better vetting the people. We would set up appointments, marketing team would go out, email campaign, call the people up, set an appointment for me. And now I'm doing Zoom calls and I'm not on an airplane all the way. So it actually gave us a much better opportunity at a time when maybe we shouldn't it shouldn't have been a benefit because of COVID, and it actually was. It improved our process, and that's the process we follow today.
Okay, so when you first started, you had your marketing team build a list of all the potential targets in your area, and then were they emailing them? Did you have someone calling them? What was that outreach
Yeah, so it
look
was a
like?
three-phase process on the marketing team. There was the data. We had a person who worked for the company whose whole entire process thing was to go grab the data, go out, data mine until we found how many janitorial companies, and we targeted specific areas based on saturation, based on knowledge of our current clients. If they had people in those areas that might be good for us, and then markets that we thought were growing and would be good. So they went to those places first and created this data. From the data, we then converted it into an email campaign where we used a CRM and just started emailing those people. And then from there, based on clicks and openings and stuff, we started the calling campaign. Hey, we're so and so. You opened up our email. Kurt would love to meet with you. Is there a time we can set that up? Blah, blah, blah. So it was a three-stage process, resulting ultimately in a Zoom call. If we liked the Zoom call, then we would go out face to face and sit down and start talking.
Got it. And this is like you were buying stuff nationwide.
Yes, and we limited to we excluded, I should say, some markets. So we excluded
Okay.
New York and we excluded Chicago at the time. We've since changed those just because those that are heavily saturated have California's terrible when it comes to uh, owning and working a company.
Yeah.
So we thought,
Regulatory burden.
oh wow, so we avoided those high regulatory burden accounts,
Okay.
and everywhere else was open.
That makes sense. Okay, so you have this Zoom on the Zoom call. What is your goal from the Zoom call?
Um, very oddly very specific. I don't talk about their business. I do not talk about the industry. I try and get to understand, how'd you get started? What are your client? What do you look for in a client? Who do you work with? How do you like the people that you work with now? I try and get, you call it the hero story. I try and get their story and understand what their story is and why they're doing what they're doing. Um, because from there we can find out if they are of the same philosophy that we are. Because some of the deals, now we've not done a ton, I think I told you, but we've done some deals. Some are a buy. Hey, we're buying the company. Here you go, and we'll do an earned buyout over time, and we'll pay you off. A couple of them, and the ones that are on the table right now, the ones that we just finished, I think I told you about, we actually finished the Denver job. They're coming on as partners. So they sell their company, we buy the company, and then they come on as a minority stakeholder in a new entity that we create that is owned by our holding company. So we just try to get to know them from the first Zoom call, not ask dollars and cents and all that, which is hard. That's why I do it, because my business partner's like, well, how much? Which
So
is
what
good. You
is
need that, right?
yeah. What is something that a seller or potential seller can say that will be an automatic no? And what is something that the seller could say that will be an automatic yes?
Okay. Now you're asking that question, Jay, and I don't even know who's on this call, but by the title of it, what's an automatic no and an automatic yes for me is going to be different from other people, right? Depending
Sure.
on what they're doing and their philosophical approach to this.
Yeah, well, I want it
So,
for you.
okay, so I will give you, I will give you a couple of those answers.
Yeah.
We is huge. So we'll just use the guy in Denver that we just finished closing off with. He used the term we a lot. He owns the company. His wife helps him out in it. She's a teacher. But when you talk to him, like us, he uses the word we. Well, we develop these things. Well, we do this, or we do it this way. Well, we. Anybody that says we doesn't think they're so damn important that the company can't live without them, because you don't want somebody like that. And it also means, I think, that they're sharing the fact that the growth is not a result of them, the entrepreneur, and they're so smart and special, and they've figured something out that nobody else could figure out. So that to us is a strong indicator of, hey, this is probably somebody that we're going to want to work with and that we like. The killer, so we just had one here since you and I spoke. We were under an NDA with a guy here in San Diego, actually, and went away real quick. Signed an NDA, and I think a week later we were done.
Oh,
And we
wow.
signed the NDA because we had kind of a good conversation. And I told my partner, I was like, he's, he's young, but that doesn't really matter. I hope he understands how things are done. So what is the automatic no that comes up real quick is when they stop saying we, and they're like, well, yeah, but my company's different. I'm different. I'm different. So one of the first things we do when we get under NDA is we say, hey, look, give us an idea of valuation of your company. What do you think it's worth? We have a guy that does valuation. And frankly, if you're using any of the good AIs, we find the AIs to be within 10, 15% of where the valuations that you pay so much for come in if you give the right prompts and right information. So we already have a valuation of sorts before we take it to our valuation guy. He came in, I think it was 33 times higher than our valuation. So he's
Oh,
doing
wow.
under $1 million a year. It was a perfect lock onto what we had. It would be like grabbing $1 million of new revenue and it cost us absolutely nothing. We could run it with our current existing staff. It was a really good deal. He wanted out, wanted to get into real estate. So I sent him the email and he came back with, well, let me tell you something. And that I literally started with, let me tell you something. When somebody needs to tell me something, that means one, I'm dumb, which is probably not too far off. So if you know me, you'll know we've met. I am not that bright. But two, they think they know everything and there's no way around it. It's not, they don't have a way of doing something. He has developed the way of doing something. So in the conversation, it came up he wanted I think it was 2.3 million. So our industry typically purchases an item for somewhere between 3 and 7 of monthly revenue. So he's
Okay.
doing $800,000 a year. Well, you would never say a multiple of one-off annual revenue. I've never done a deal like that. I've never seen a deal like that, but I could be wrong. Maybe some are being done. And is there a reason to do it? And why we ask early on and say, what, give us a valuation. What are you looking for? Because if somebody has an unrealistic ask, but it works on other levels, then we just start measuring the terms. That's fine. We can pay you this high rate, but it's going to take us 10 years because we think we're going to build up over time. The deal we just did in Denver was a higher mark than we would normally pay, but we knew we could add revenue to it quickly, and we just extended the terms a little bit. So instead of doing a 3-year buyout, we said, look, we need 6. Fine, deal's done and we're moving. Well, this was 33 times. So we we didn't see a math where we could take 33 times our normal offering of 3. That would be 99 years that we're going to pay off this thing. Probably he wasn't going to go for 99 years. So
So
that
he
deal went
so he
away real quick.
so he was thinking 3 times revenue, so yearly revenue,
Annual
annual
revenue.
revenue. Yeah, and you're
Yeah.
thinking 3 times monthly,
3 to 7 is the
three to
normal
seven times monthly.
acquisition
Okay,
price.
which is interesting because that's very unique to the industry. And so, what makes a company a three months, and what makes a company a 7 month?
EBITDA. It's all from there. It's all math, right? It's how quickly can you either grow it or take the existing book of business that's there, and how long will it take for you to cover whatever the acquisition price is. So we typically say, well, look, we're going to invest for 5 years, but we're going to try and pay it off in 3. So that gives us a little bit. Sometimes that puts us into, if you will, a little bit of a debt situation where we're paying with our own money to get this out, but we know within 5 years we've paid off the whole thing, and now it's on it for us. We're in this for the long haul. So it's really math. Hey, if we do it at 7 at the higher end of it, how long is it going to take us for us to pay back whatever our investment was?
Got it. But from like, if you just take the business on its own, is there anything with it about the business itself that makes it a 3 versus 7, or is just
Mm-hmm.
mainly around terms?
Mm-hmm. So in addition to the price, it's, well, what other stuff do we have in that market? Who do we know that in another market that we can take there? That's how we did the Bay Area. And in the
Yeah.
Bay Area, we did one, and it just shot up. We bought a small, it was nothing. We've overpaid for it. And we knew so many people that our Bay Area market has gone crazy. So if it's a market where we've identified, because when we look for the janitorial companies, we data mine that. We also data mine the book of business of potential customers there. So we're looking at all the property managers. Well, who do we know? Who do we recognize? Oh, this person used to work here. We know that person and we know that company and that kind of stuff. So we do model into it. How quickly can we grow this thing? And if we think, well, we can add 20% growth to it a year, well, then we might pay a little bit more because it's worth it. If we like the guy in Denver was such a good fit with us, it just made sense. Hey, let's lock this thing on and we'll find other ways to grow with this guy in other areas.
That makes sense. So typically the janitorial service companies, what is their gross margin? What is a healthy gross margin? What is a healthy net margin?
And I might be the wrong guy to ask. I'm not sure. I'm surprised at where some people are. Some of the big players, the billion-dollar revenue companies, their gross margins are 15, 12, 13 some. I mean, they
Gross.
have these very low gross margins
Gross margin. Wow.
because they have very little SGA beyond that and very little other expenses. And what are they trying to do? They're trying to raise their revenue so they can look attractive to stock purchasing. Um, for us, we have a floor. We've broken it a couple times, but our floor is about 20. When we do most of our bids, we do 23.5 or better is our gross. From
Gross.
there, and it depends how you want to look at net for with EBITDA or without, but from there, let's say we net about 10, and I'll say it this way, but we really net about 5 because when we get to where we want to be, we do other things with the money. There's no reason to pay too much in taxes, and we only need so much in retained earnings.
Okay.
So,
So then
um,
typical is 10.
yes, I would say it's really 10, and then we might do something else with.
And okay. That includes everything. All your SG&A. That 10, so 10% is all your SG&A, including
Yeah,
sales. Okay. Well, you don't have sales.
everything.
Interesting.
We don't,
Um,
and our management team and all those people come above the gross margin line.
okay. And I remember last time when we talked, you talked about your engineering side, versus your cleaning side. And you had mentioned that the cleaning side is actually healthier margin than the engineering. So is the engineering less than 10%?
So engineering, we're thrilled if we net 5%.
Wow.
Yeah, our gross is anywhere from as low as 8%, as low as 7%. The
Wow.
highest we have is in one market we do about 14%, but we're well established there. But the average is when we do a bid, we try and stay at 10% gross margin. Now, SG&A is totally different there. So on the janitorial side, you've got all these trainers, you got all these people, timekeeping, payroll. We have an
Yeah.
entire recruiting team. We have an entire onboarding team because the turnover is anywhere from, we're low turnover, but it's between 10 to 20%, and that's low for the industry.
Wow.
Turnovers in engineering is 2 to 5%. You got guys making 35 to 50 bucks an hour, plus they got full benefits, full retirement, da 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 da.
They don't go
Once
anywhere.
they're in, they don't go anywhere.
Ah, that's interesting. And so the companies that you're buying, let's say between 2 and 5 million revenue, um, do
It's
they
pretty
have
good.
do they have the same margin? Do they have the same margin profile, or they're like slightly
I would
higher?
I would say they're at our 23 or better
Okay.
or higher
Okay, so they're at your level or higher. Because at the
or
small
higher.
size, they can't carry, um, they can't spread that SG&A across, because you have volume, they don't. So they're a little bit, I'm assuming they're a little bit leaner, but they're also getting higher gross margin.
You're accurate.
Okay. Um, and so now you're leveraging. So how many states are you in now?
So we just closed it. So Colorado, Texas, Florida, Arizona. We are in 6 states.
60. Okay. So tell me your best acquisition and tell me your worst acquisition, or the one that sucked from an outcome perspective, not necessarily for the
Um,
transaction side, from the outcome
yeah,
perspective.
Yeah, I'll do the suck one first. Was Las
Okay.
Vegas. We don't even do Las Vegas anymore. We did an acquisition deal there, and it was a fiasco. It was in addition to the acquisition and what happened there, we probably lost another $70,000 plus whatever we got. But the all our fault, by the way. We did a terrible job, I think, in due diligence. It was a little bit early on. I knew the guy who had the company. I used to run that market. I based entirely too much of it on, oh, I know the guy. This is on the up and up, and I cut a few corners and got into this and found out that it wasn't good. So that was our worst one. And the failure there was due diligence. Was in, it's you're developing a relationship. You've got to learn to trust the people you're going to work with, and that's fine. And you've got to make sure that what they're telling you is accurate. And we got a bunch of bad information that I didn't know was bad. And I just said, I know, Nick, we'll be fine. It's all good. It's all good.
Was
And
it
that was a
like
fiasco.
was it top line? Was it cost? What was it that it was incorrect or was bad?
The group of the accounts. So the representation of the accounts, we didn't verify them, and it turns out that the accounts that he had that were on his book were he was actually a subcontractor for, not the contractor. And as a result, when it took place, when we were done, he had Wells Fargo, which we're like, great, we can build on that. He had Wells Fargo and Citicorp. Well, once we got into it and we said, hey, we're the guys, they go, well, we don't deal with us. You deal with this company. And there was a large national company that was subcontracting Nick. Well, they recognized our name, and actually I knew the guy, and they knew who we were. Like, we're not going to help you grow in this market, and we're out.
Oh man. Oh man.
Mhm.
And this is someone you knew.
Uh-huh. Oh,
Damn.
he worked for me at the first company I told you about where I was with.
Yeah.
I was a regional manager. He was my manager in Southern Nevada.
So you just didn't review the contracts. You didn't
We did
review any. You didn't review. So what kind of due diligence did you do if you didn't review the contract? You just looked at the P&L and balance sheet, or
financial statements and went through that and developed from there. We did some math on the EBITDA, but we
okay,
didn't check the clients. We didn't check the
okay,
contracts and those things. And because I know the guy,
got
I
it.
knew the guy. We're not. You're gonna find this hard to believe. We're not friends anymore.
Okay, all right.
We
Okay,
don't hang out. It was
okay,
very deceitful and
okay,
I yeah. So that was
okay.
the worst.
You're trusting
Great
that.
lesson though. Great lesson because you
Yes.
should work with your friends and it's good to work with them. And you've got to have the same processes because
Yeah.
had we known that, we probably could have figured out a different deal and we could have all if he had just been truthful about that, there's still a way to make a deal happen. Well, not based on what we understood and represented.
Yeah. And you
So
would
it
still be
was
friends.
painful. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then
Okay.
and I would say our best one, yeah, maybe maybe because it's freshest in my mind, but and maybe I got a crush on the guy. I don't know. It's probably not good, huh? Is the deal we just did because we are so unique. His culture, our culture, his processes. He's much smaller than we are, but we've already been talking about, hey, we always look for the better in something. And you've got some ideas that we could incorporate into our current software and improve them and make these things better. And it's just, I mean, talk about a click. Financially, it's fairly new, but it's working. It's going to be fine. We paid a little bit over. I was a little miffed that he was saying, hey, I still need a salary of this much while we're doing this. But then, you know what? We just built the model from there. This is where we need to get to. He was upfront about what he needed. He was very direct, very honest about the business and where it was. He had one third of his business was in one locked up to one client. And we told him that scares us. So what can we do? And before we finished the deal, we walked in and met the client together, and he let me sit and talk to the guy, and we had a great conversation. And again,
Nice.
he was
Before you
completely
close.
transparent. Yeah.
Wow.
And
That's
so that was the best one. One of the smaller deals,
yeah.
but I view it as a huge opportunity going forward.
Well, the value is in the relationship and that person. That's the value.
I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah.
We failed, as I told you in the first part, because we were chasing the dollar, and we really chased it. And what I find is our relationships are stronger and better. Revenue is a result. Profit is a result of having a good product and a good team, right?
Yeah.
So when you chase the money, you're not really chasing anything because that's the result of the work you've done.
Yes. Well, and also I think you having seen so many companies and have you met with so many owners, now you know when you find the real deal, it jumps out of the paper. Like you could tell. I can, you know, when I see it, I know it. And
Yeah.
this person, you clearly can see after seeing so many. Like how many sellers have you met with? Like 50, 60 of them?
Oh, more than that.
Okay,
Well,
so
not sellers. I should say I've met with more than
owners.
that. Owners of companies that I've tried to talk to about. So, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah. Let me open it up. Anyone has any questions for Kurt, Derek, Philip?
Yeah. Why is
Because
Kurt wearing that hat?
you and I could be talking for 2 hours, and I can ask you
Oh, I'm
anything.
not that entertaining, Jay.
Yeah, no, you are.
Trust me.
You
Nobody
are.
wants to talk to me for 2 hours.
Kate, anybody? Yes.
Yeah, they went to sleep, man.
No, no, they're there. They're all they like my questions. Uh, Derek, yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
I'm
So
here, but
go
I
ahead.
can't ask any better questions. You're just Kurt. You're just so big. I don't even know to like what I'm here, and you're like up here, so I don't even know what to ask you.
I thought you were talking about my head. I thought maybe my face was showing up there. And don't blow smoke up Jay's butt about him asking great questions. He's already got a big head. Don't get it. Don't make
Yes,
it any bigger.
I do.
Don't
It can
tell him
get
he doesn't
bigger.
know he doesn't know what he's doing. What do you do, Derek?
I have a like outdoor sporting club. So it's like a big property in Colorado. But now I'm in
Oh,
Miami looking for an acquisition to kind of start a new industry here.
oh.
He's
Well, do you know
go ahead.
Jay? He lives there.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So Derek is looking at all kinds of fun businesses that you would probably enjoy. You're a surfer. So Derek was looking at a kite surfing business just recently, just made an offer on one, and looks at marina businesses and all kinds of like outdoor water businesses. So you'd appreciate.
Nice. And you've put a deal in on one, you said, Derek?
I put a LOI, offered LOI, but the seller thinks his business is worth a lot more. So, but yeah, I mean, it's kind of a balance. Like I like cool businesses, but sometimes I wonder maybe I should go more boring.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, hey. No, stick with the cool business because that's what I did. I clean toilets, and there is nothing cooler than cleaning toilets. Let me tell you. You talk about a panty dropper, man. Women go crazy. My wife and I have been married 34 years, and the reason we're married is because I clean toilets. She cannot get enough of this. She just loves it. Oh, I tell her about my day. Honey, I cleaned 27 toilets today. She's like, "Come here, baby. Let's go."
So, so Kurt, out of the businesses, like the businesses that serve your clients, which like if have you ever seen a business that you thought, man, if I had to start over, I would have started that business. It's easier. I can get a higher net margin. Um, I can grow that thing. What would have been if you were not in the toilet cleaning business? What would you be in?
Um, So I started a software company as a result of this thing because we developed a software to help us run it, and that software is doing pretty well. It's a lot of work, stuff that I don't know and understand, but it's a lot easier to maintain. It's easier to grow it, I guess I should say. Um, there's so many moving parts in the janitorial company. You've got labor. I mean, when labor is 50 to 60% of your expenses, you can imagine that now you talk about herding cats. I mean, that's really what you're doing.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a big deal. Um, so I would say I might have gone into the software side, but I don't know. The janitorial industry has such opportunity because there's it's not glamorous, it's low tech still. So if you can show a different product and a different way of doing things, it's easy to distinguish yourself in the market. So I don't know. I don't know if there's another one. I
So
started an
off
equipment rental company, and that's been fun, but I don't know anything about that either.
Okay. So off the people that maintain properties, like let's say HVAC, roofing, window cleaning, all those, services that service the same asset that you're maintaining the toilets of, which one would you pick if you had to pick one?
Which of those that I don't currently do would I pick?
Yes. Yeah.
Um, Probably window cleaning.
Window clean.
Yeah, it's
Why?
and because we've looked at it, because it is it's still another place where it's very mom and pop. It's very low tech. You could easily roll it up. You could start doing acquisitions quickly in a model like that. If you first stopped and developed exactly what your processes and those things are, it's very so. If you're doing a high-rise building, window cleaning is very specialized and there's only a handful of people. But if you talk about 3 stories and below where they use something called a Tucker pole, it's an opportunity for you to go in and buy one and then fix it, get it where you want it to run, do what it's doing, and you can scale and replicate that. If you said, okay, I'm not just going to say, hey guys, there's a window, go clean it. I'm going to say, we use this equipment, we use this process, we do this every time. And through the iterative process, I'm going to make it better and better and better. And then you can scale that across. And there's so many window companies out there that are ripe and want to be acquired because they're older and they're done and they don't have it worked out. Now you're doing the same thing where now you're going to be picking up more and more employees and coworkers and stuff. But
Yeah.
I think there's that's the one that I think is the easiest to scale. And I also think it has the potential for the quickest acquisition model.
Nice. Does
Now,
that one have like a higher revenue number per employee?
no, I'd say it's almost exactly the same. What it
Yeah.
has is a slightly higher gross margin.
Okay.
Yeah,
Got
so you can tell that's something that we kind of looked at. But you talk about HVAC, plumbing, and those things; those are also higher margin and good ones. The problem is it's more specialized, and the people there are making enough money and doing things that they're pretty happy not going out and selling and not being acquired.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Okay.
Did you ever hear that podcast about that guy who did that with garage door companies?
Yes. Yeah, I know the
That's
guy.
amazing. You know
Yes,
the
it's
guy?
incredible. Yes.
A
Yeah.
great
It's
story. I
incredible.
mean,
Yes. Yes.
taken
It's
something that
incredible.
was nothing and he turned it into, and he developed the same way with
Yeah.
processes and things like that.
Yeah, that's an incredible story. And and it's just hard work, man. That's just what it is. I mean, he's a young guy and he's very focused. He's all signal, no noise.
Yeah, it's pretty
Well,
good.
I
Is that
appreciate
a
it, Kirk.
surfboard behind Derek? I'll let you go, but I want to see
No,
what's
no, no. Go
behind
ahead.
Derek.
Yeah.
Yeah, surfboard.
Where do you? That's nice.
Although it's not much surfing in Miami Beach, but it's not a bad view.
Where are you from, Derek? Do you have a surf?
I'm from Texas originally.
Oh, not a lot of surf there either.
Not a lot of surf there.
Wakeboard. But Derek is a pilot, so tell him what you fly, Derek.
Yeah, I fly B-52s.
You fly B-52s
Mm-hmm.
for whom?
The Air Force.
Oh, okay. Well, you didn't say you were in the Air Force. So I'm thinking, well, nobody else has B-52s.
So that's something unique about Derek that you didn't know.
So you're stationed in the Miami area.
No, I'm in the reserves now, and my base is actually in Louisiana, so I'll commute back for it.
Where in Louisiana is the Air Force?
Barksdale Air Force Base is in Shreveport. It's like northwest.
Oh, I know where Shreveport is. I lived in Leesville for a little while. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's nice. That's a little different. I do not fly B-52s. My specialty, as I said, is the toilet. So you're way ahead, Derek. You can get anything you want.
It sounds like you're way ahead. I need more toilets.
All right, Kurt. I appreciate it, man. Let us know when you come down to Miami or Palm Beach
September.
or whatever. We're gonna do lunch again.
I'm meeting a guy for an acquisition in September that
let's
we've
do it.
been talking to. So I will in Fort Lauderdale. So I'll let you know before I
Let's
get
do
there.
it.
It's close enough.
Sure.
You're stuck with me.
We'll get
Grab
Derek.
Grab
Yeah, we'll
Derek,
get-
and he can take
yeah,
us up
Derek
in
will
his
join
B-52.
us.
I'm in. We'll go flying.
All right,
All right,
gentlemen.
guys. Thank you. Have a
Take
good
care.
one.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.